Over the course of this podcast series, you'll hear myself and my guests talking about asking listeners to support you and thanking them when they do. In real time, it is the last week of January, and I want to start by thanking the late bloomer actor for all those lovely streamed sats on Fountain. We haven't covered streaming or sats in the podcast yet, but we soon will. The episodes releasing this week are on the funding tag, so it is an apt time for me to thank Eileen Smith for being the first listener to buy me a coffee, saying, "Love how you are spreading the word about podcasting 2.0. Thanks, Claire." Well, thank you too, Eileen. You can buy me a coffee by visiting buymeacoffee.com/creativityfound or simply clicking the funding icon in your modern podcast app. I'll show you what this looks like in the funding homework episode. And on True Fans, the show has been supported by Martin Linskog from the podcast Studio Fusion. I hope Deborah feels better soon. And the aim is to make things easier for the podcaster at all times, so defo through the hosting provider. And when it happens, rest assured I'll release an episode to let you know. Martin will know what I mean, and you will too if you read his comments on the chapters and super chapters episodes on True Fans. Okay, on with the show. Welcome back to Podcasting 2.0 in Practice. Let's start today's homework by locating the funding feature on your podcast listening app. As with the previous homework episode on chapters, I will be popping very useful screenshots in the chapters to illustrate what I'm telling you. If you have not listened to the chapters episodes, well, first, I'm deducting 10 imaginary extra credits from you, and second, go back and listen. Let's start with Podcast Guru. You need to be in the overall shows page where all the episodes are listed, rather than the play screen that we've talked about before. Click on the 3 dots at the top of the screen, then choose Support This Podcast. When you click on that link, you will be taken to where the podcaster would like you to go to make your donation. And I'll talk about how podcasters set this up a bit later in this homework episode. On True Fans, again on the show page, not the episode play screen, click on the lovely symbol of an open hand with a heart on top. Podverse also supports funding, and whether you are in the show screen or the episode screen, you'll see at the top of the screen the dollar symbol in a circle above a rectangle, like a coin being popped into a slot. That's where you go to find the funding feature in Podverse. So, if you would like to give some financial support to a favourite podcaster, click on the relevant symbol in your listening app. If you'd like to practice first, feel free to send some support to this show or Creativity Found. If your favourite podcaster has not set up their funding link, then those symbols will likely not be visible in the app you're listening on. And in this case, you might like to suggest to said podcaster that they listen to this show, since they've just missed out on some possibly much needed financial support. Okay, now the homework for the podcasters, which is, of course, to set up your funding link with your hosting company. You might want to start by visiting podcasting2.org or podcastindex.org first to see if your hosting company supports the funding tag. Have a listen to the 101 and 2.0 podcast basics homework episode if you need a reminder of how to navigate that. This show is hosted by Captivate, and since we've just been chatting with Danny Brown from Captivate, let's start there. Captivate has a number of monetization options that make use of the funding tag, so you can choose which you like best. In your dashboard, scroll down to monetization and you'll see options for memberships and tips. In membership settings, you can create your own tiers of membership and decide what extras, if any, membership might offer, such as early access or exclusive episodes. You can also activate tips from the tips settings page, including setting default amounts and changing the wording. For example, I changed mine from tips to leave a tip, thank you. Captivate will set up a support webpage for you and use that as the default link for the funding tag. Here's what a sample looks like with a choice of membership and tips. Now, if you want to use your own link, as I talked about with Danny, to perhaps a Patreon, buy me a coffee or your own webpage, that is doable too. Click on Podcast Settings at the top of your dashboard. Then click on RSS Enhancements. Scroll down to Podcast Funding and add your link. As you can see in this instance, I've added a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page. Don't forget to scroll down to save changes as well. Buzzsprout also has its own built-in monetization options. Click on Monetization at the top of the home screen and go to Subscription Settings to set up recurring support and/or premium content. To use a different preferred payment site, click on Support Show Link in the Monetization tab and paste your link into the box. It's good practice to have your payment link listed in your show notes, so use your host's template features to have that link inserted in the notes for every new episode. As you can see from this screenshot, Buzzsprout automatically does this for you. With RSS.com, click on Monetization and add your link to the Donations and Funding box. Other hosts will have similar options, I'm sure, so go explore and get ready for the dollars to start rolling in. As discussed with Danny, don't forget to also tell your listeners that they can support you financially and how to do it. Visit creativityfound.co.uk/podcasting to find out more about my guests and access lots of useful podcast resources. If you'd like to get in touch, you can send a boost. But if you haven't got to that lesson yet, feel free to reach out to me on my Instagram account at podcasting 2.0 in practice. Are you thinking of starting your own podcast and looking for a little advice from someone who started from scratch and hasn't looked back? That's me, by the way. Then book a podcast startup sanity check with me so we can work together to clarify and simplify the process of starting a show. I have been podcasting with Creativity Found for 4 years. I have won and been shortlisted for prestigious podcast awards, been a guest on other people's shows, and attended many podcast-specific events in the UK and US, where I have made lots of podcasty pals across all genres. For my second show, Podcasting 2.0 in Practice, I have had the privilege of talking to industry experts as together we teach creators how to benefit from and implement the latest Podcasting 2.0 technologies. In this paid 4 hours chat, we can talk through your content idea, how to record, which platforms are worth the money, how to get your show to all the listening apps, what you need to know to future-proof your show, and much more. Please note, I will not tell you how to have a chart-topping show in your first week, nor how to pitch to sponsors. I will, however, act as a mentor whom you can run your ideas and questions past. The decisions you make with the knowledge you gain are all your own. Visit creativityfound.co.uk/podcasting to find out more. And there is, of course, a link in the show notes.